welcome to the 4 operations with Cubit Education. So in this lesson we're going to go through all the 4 operations such as add, take away, multiply and divide with ordinary numbers. Okay, so we are going to do another video on decimals which works in more or less the same way, but there will be a video on that. So let's start with adding without a calculator. So 263 plus 456. All we need to do here is we're going to put them in a column using hundreds, tens and units. So as you can see, we've got 263, 456. And we'll just add from the right to the left. So 3 plus 6 is 9. And then we have 6 plus 5, which is 11. So because that's 11, we need to put the unit there, the 1, and then we need to carry the other 1 over to the other side. So it still makes 11, but we have to carry the 10 over. And then we have to add the 4 and the 2 and the 1. So 4, 5, 6, and then this one would be 7. So our answer is 719. Okay, the column method is nice and easy for adding, and I recommend that you use this way in your exams. If you want to do it in your head first, that's fine, but always check it using this method. So subtraction, again, it's laid out exactly the same, and this time we're going to do 432 take away 256. So if we go the same direction, we start here, and we can't do 2 take away 6. So because of that, what we're going to do is take 1 off the 3 and add it to the 2, giving it as 12, and then we're going to turn that 3 into a 2 because we've taken a 10 off it. And then we do 12 take away 6. 12 take away 6 is 6. And so we've done that part, and then we move on to the centre column. And again, we can't do 2 take away 5. So I'm going to take 1 from the 4 to make it a 3, and we make that a 12. 12 take away 5 is 7. And then finally, we just do 3 take away 2. Gives us 1. So our answer is 176. So there's a few here to have a go at. Just pause the video and have a go, and then I'll go through the answers. Okay, so if you've paused the video, here are your answers. 325 plus 212 is 537. 819 minus 637 equals 182. 572 add 769 is 1341. And then 1289 take away 736 is 553. Okay. So let's move on to do some multiplication then. We can do this in a few ways. So the first way I'm going to show you is the column method again. So we're going to put it into columns with hundreds, tens and units just like we did before. But this time we're multiplying. So we should actually have a multiplication sign here. Not very well drawn one, but there we go. Okay, a times sign. If it was take away, we'd write take away. If it was add, we'd write add. Okay, so what we've got to do is multiply everything on the top by the units and then everything on the top by the tens. So let's do the top by the units first. So we need to do 3 times 2. 3 times 2 is 6. And then we need to do 2 times 2, which is 4. So we've done everything on the top multiplied by the 2. Now what we're going to do is multiply everything on the top by the 1. And because we're doing that, we're in the tens column now, which means we need to add a 0 first. Then we're going to do 3 times 1, which is 3, and 2 times 1, which is 2. So we've done all the multiplication, and now you just need to add up your 2 answers. So you need to add up the 46 and the 230. 6 add 0 is 6, 4 add 3 is 7, and then the 2 is just on its own, so giving us 276. Okay, so we're going to do this same sum, so as you can see, 23 times 12. We're going to do the same sum again, but we're going to use the grid method now. Now, for the grid method, what we do is we draw a grid like this, and we split our numbers into tens and units. So if we have 23, we need to put 20 and 3. And if we have 12, we need to put 10 and 2. And then we need to multiply each of these. Now, 10 times 20 is quite easy because we can just do 1 times 2, which is 2, and then we just add on the 2 zeros. So 1 times 2 is 2, and then we need to put in 2 zeros, okay? Oops. And then we'll do 10 times 3. Well, 10 times 3 is quite easy, but if you weren't sure, we can do 1 times 3, which is 3, and then add the 0. But 3 tens is 30. Here, 2 times 20, well, 2 20s are 40, and 2 times 3 is 6. So now we've got our answers to all the multiplication, we have to add all of these together. So we'll put them into our hundreds, tens and units columns and we'll just add them up. So as you can see, I've got the 200, the 30, the 40 and the 6. So if I add all of these, it gives us 6. If I add 3 and 4, it gives us 7, and then the 2 on its own gives us 2. So we've got exactly the same answer, but just using a different method. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is show you another way to do multiplication without a calculator, and I'm going to use some bigger numbers for this. So I'm going to do the grid method first and then I'll show you a different way. So when we have hundreds, here we've got 223. So we need to split that into 220 and 3 and then 120 and 4. So we're splitting them out. Now again, we can just do 1 times 2. Okay, which is 2, and then we just add on 4 zeros, 2 there and 2 there. Okay, so 1 times 2 is 2, and then add on all of your zeros, 4 of them, so 20,000. Then here we're going to do 100 times 20. Again, 1 times 2 is 2, and then you'll have 3 zeros there. 3 100s must be 300. 20 times 200, 2 times 2 is 4, and then I've got 1, 2, 3 zeros. 20 times 20, 2 times 2 is 4, and I've got 1 0 there and 1 0 there, so I add 2 zeros to my answer. 3 20s, or 20 times 3, that's 60. 4 times 200, well 4 times 2 is 8, and then I've got 2 zeros there, so I add 2 zeros there. 4 times 20, well again, 4 times 2 is 8, and I've got 1 0 there, so I'll add 1 0 there. And then 4 times 3 is 12. Now this one is long-winded when you get much bigger numbers, and that's why I wanted to show you this method first. So now what we've got to do is add all of these together, and that's just so many numbers to add up, and that's why I'm going to show you this other method in a minute. Now you can still use the column method for these, but when we add a 0 for the tens column, when you go onto the hundreds column, you need to add 2 zeros. Okay, if there's any problems with that, and you're doing this as part of a course, then we can go through them in some of your free one-to-one lessons. So let's add all these together when we've got lots and lots of zeros and then a 2, so 2 must go there. Then I've got lots and lots of zeros and then 8, 6 and 1. So that makes 15, so don't forget we have to put the 5 and then we carry the 1 over to the next column, and I've just put it in red there so you can see. And then I've got 8 plus 4, which is 12, plus 3, which is 15, plus 1, which is 16. So 6 goes there and the 1 is carried over. And then we add these up, 4, 5, 6, plus the 1 is 7, and then 2 on its own. So our answer is 27,652. Okay, so I hope that makes sense, but it is long-winded. So I'm now going to show you the same 2 questions, but with a different method. So this is called the lattice method. And with the lattice method, we don't need any zeros at all. We just write 2 and 3 in each box and 1 and 2 in each box. The only difference is you need to draw in a lattice like this, so diagonal lines. So it's quite nice if you make these quite square, because then the lattices join together quite nicely, as you can see here. So what I'm going to do now is 1 times 2. Well, 1 times 2 is 2, so I need to put 0 and then 2, so like this, 0, 2. Because there's no tens. We have one triangle for the tens and one triangle for the units. So 0, 2. 1 times 3 is 0, 3. 2 times 2 is 0, 4. And 2 times 3 is 0, 6. Okay, so you've just multiplied all the numbers by each other. And now what we're going to do is just extend our lattice lines a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to add up underneath the diagonal lines. Okay, so underneath this diagonal line, it's going to be 6 because that's the only number underneath this line. Okay, then underneath this line, so basically this diagonal column, is 4 add 3, which is 7, and then inside this final one, it's just a 2. We don't have to put this one because it doesn't count, there's no number in there, it's just 0. So our answer is 276, and if you check the work from before, you will see that it's the same answer. So let's try this, this larger one now. So we've got 223, so I've just written 2, 2, 3, and 124, 1, 2, 4. Don't forget to put in all your lattice lines. Okay, and then we're going to multiply across. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 2 is 2, and 1 times 3 is 3. So we're just doing this number multiplied by everything. Then this number multiplied by everything. So 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 2 is 4, and 2 times 3 is 6. And then this number multiplied by everything. 4 times 2 is 2. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 2 is 8. And 4 times 3 is 12. So this time you will have a number here because we've got tens. Okay? So you've got 0, 8, 0, 8, and then 12. So whatever your answers are, so if it's like 23, then it'd be 2, 3. Okay, so it's quite straightforward. Now I'm going to extend my lines again and add up below the diagonal lines. The addition in this one is a little bit more complicated, so just be careful when adding. So below this diagonal line we just have a 2, and then below this diagonal line, so inside here, I have 6 add 8 add 1. Okay, so that gives me 15. And because it gives me 15, I need to put my 5, but I still need to carry the 1 over to the next column. Okay, like we did before when we carry over, you still have to carry over. Then I have 8 plus 4 plus 3, okay, which gives me 15, but then I've got this 1 to add on, so that gives me 16. So I'll put my 6 and carry my 1. And then in this column I have 4 plus 2 is 6, plus the 1 gives me 7. And then in this column I just have 2. So I've got 27,652. Okay, I hope that is making sense so far. Here's a few questions for you to have a go at. Pause the video and I will go through the answers. Okay, so if you've paused the video, here are the answers. 21 times 45 is 954. 31 times 64 is 1,984. 234 times 36 is 8,424. 127 times 332 is 42,164. And 123 times 2,456 is 302,088. Okay, so we've done addition, subtraction and multiplication, and now on to the last part of our lesson is division. So let's look at doing some short and long division without a calculator. Okay, so we have 234 divided by 6, and that's how I would write it out. Now, because I'm dividing by 6, it might be quite helpful to put some of our 6 times table down. Okay, because if you don't know your times tables, which I do advise that you learn them, you could write some down just to help you. So first of all, I know I can't put 6 into 2, okay, because 2 is smaller than 6. So instead I'm going to use 23, okay. So I'm going to start by using this entire number, okay. So how many 6s can I fit into 23? So if I look here, I've got 6, 12, 18, and then 24. So 23 is not in the 6 times table. The number that I can get closest to is 18. Okay, I can't get to 24 because it's too big. So actually I can fit 1, 2, 3. So I can fit 3 6s into 23. And then I have to work out what the remainder is. So how many numbers are there left from 18 to 23? So I've got 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So if you counted those on your fingers, okay, then that gives me 5 remainders from 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Okay, so that is 5 remainders. So I'm going to put my 5 just there, and that gives me 54 now. So now I'm going to use the entire 54. I'm just going to write out a few more of my 6 times table here. Now, I can see that 6's go into 54. Okay, so 54 is in the 6 times table. So I just need to count now. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9 6's go into 54. So that means our final answer is 39. 234 divided by 6 is 39. Okay? So let's have a go at this one. 958 divided by 2. So I'm not going to write out my 2 times table, I don't think. Let's see. Yes, I did. But you shouldn't need to write down the 2 times table. It's quite an easy times table to learn. So how many 2's go into 9? So if I look at my list, the closest I can get to 9 is 8. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So I can fit 4 2's into 9. From 8 to 9, there's 1 left over. So from 8 up to 9, it's 1. So my 1 remainder goes there. Okay, I'm just going to write out a few more of my 2 times tables here. 2 times table, sorry. How many 2's go into 15? So looking at my list, the closest that I can get to 15 is 14. If I go to 16, it's too much, too high. So the closest I can get is 14. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 goes there. Okay. Now from 14 to 15, I've got another 1 remainder. So now I've got 18. How many 2's go into 18? Well, I know by looking at my list that the 18 is in the 2 times table. So I just have to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that goes there. And now I've run out of numbers. There's no remainders. So that's my answer. 479. 958 divided by 2 is 479. Okay, good. Okay, so we're getting a bit bigger now. 3,780 divided by 4. So let's write that down. Oh, have I missed a 0? Okay, so if I've missed a 0, I'm just going to add it in here. Okay, and let's see how we get on. So how many 4's? I can't put 4 into 3, so I have to use 37. So how many 4's go into 37? So if I've drawn out my 4 times table here, and the closest I can get to 37 is 36. Okay, so I need to count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9 goes there. Now if I've used the entire 37, I'm going to put my 9 above the 7 to show that I've used all of this. If you put your 9 above the 3, you might get confused and think that you've still got 7 to divide by. You haven't, or to divide into. Okay, you haven't. So just make sure you've used the entire 37, so 9 will go above it. Okay, so the remainders then from 36 to 37 is 1. And now I've got 18. So how many 4's go into 18? So if I look at my list, I've got 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. The closest I can get to is 16, so it's 4. So I'm going to put 4 there. Okay. Now, what's left from 16 up to 18? Okay, because that's 16 was the closest I could get to 18. I couldn't go to 20 because it was too big. So from 16 up to 18, there is 2 remainder. Okay, so now I'm ending up with a 20. Okay, which is nice. I think my 0 comes in now. Just made a mistake there. But anyway, it's a 0. So now there's 20. How many 4's go into 20? And I know by looking at my list, 20 is in the 4 times table. So I just have to count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then 5 will go there. So my final answer is 945. Okay. Right, now we're getting a bit more complicated. So this one's a harder question. 11 isn't too bad to divide by. But I know for a fact that 11 doesn't go into 5,689 exactly. So your final answer will be quite complicated. So here is the question. 5,689 divided by 11. Now, I've written my 11 times tables just down here. Okay. And I want to know how many 11's go into 56 because I can't put 11 into 5. So how many 11s go into 56? So if I count, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can't go to 66 because it's too high. So the closest number I can get to 56 is 55 in the 11 times table. And that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 goes above the 56 because I've used all of it. From 55 to 56, I've got one remainder. So that gives me 18. Now, I need to work out how many 11s go into 18. And if I look at my 11 times table, I have 11 and 22, or 22 is too big, so I can only fit one in. So one goes there. Okay. Then from 11 up to 18, okay, is 7. So I need to put 7 as my remainder there. Okay. So 7 is my remainder, and now I've got 79. So if I look at my 11 times table, the closest I can get to 79 is 77. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 goes there. And my remainder from 77 to 79 is 2. Now this is where the problem arises because we don't have any more numbers. And if we don't have any more numbers, it means that I have to put a decimal point in. And if I put a decimal point in, it means I can add a 0. Now, if there's already a 0 there, like there was in the previous question, it doesn't matter. You can just continue to work it out the same way without the decimal point. But if there is a remainder like this 2, and there was no 0 here already in the question, we can add a 0, but you must put a decimal point. Okay? So now we just continue. How many 11s go into 20? Well, again, I can't go to 22, so I can only fit in 1. And now my remainder from 11 up to 20 is 9. And because I've added this decimal point here, I can continue now to add zeros. So I can add another 0 and it gives me 90. If I look at my 11 times table, the closest I can get to 90 is 88. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 will be my answer there. From 88 up to 90, there is 2 remainder. So I can add another 0. And can you see I'm going to start to get a pattern here. So 20, how many 11s into 20? Again, I can only fit 1. And from 11 up to 20, there is 9 remainder. I can add another 0. How many 11s in 90? The closest I can get to 90 is 88, which means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay? So basically, that's going to carry on like that. It's not going to end now. That'll go on forever. So instead of doing it and carrying on and on and on, we know that these two numbers are going to reoccur continuously throughout the entire answer. Because of that, we can say that it's 517 point, which is this bit, and then 1818. You don't have to write that twice if you don't want to, but it's up to you. And to show that that's going to go on and on and on, I'm going to put 2 dots above the 1 and above the 8 because it shows that that 18 or that 1 8 will carry on and on and on. Okay, you could also have just written it 517.18 and put the dots here. You didn't have to have 2. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. And we're just going to do one more example of a reoccurring set of decimals. Okay, so 6,985 divided by 12, and I've written out my 12 times tables. Now I want to work out how many 12s go into 69 because I can't put 12 into a number smaller than it. So how many 12s into 69? The closest I can get to 69 is 60 in the 12 times table. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 goes there. And from 60 to 69, there is 9 remainder. So now I've got 98. The closest number I can get to 98 is 96 in the 12 times table. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 will go there. From 96 to 98, I have 2 remainders, and that gives me 25. Looking at my 12 times table, The closest I can get to 25 is 24, which means I can only fit 1, 2. So 2 goes there. And we have a remainder. From 24 up to 25, the remainder will be 1. So now we have the same issue as we had before. There are no numbers here, so that means I need to add a decimal point, and then I can add my 0. And now it says, how many 12s go into 10? Well, we can't actually put 12 into 10 because 10 is too small. So I need to put a 0 there, saying that I can't do it. Okay, which means now I can add another 0 here, giving me 100. Okay. So now, how many 12s fit into 100? So looking at our list, the closest I can get to 100 is 96. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 will go there. My remainder from 96 up to 100 is 4. And then I can add another 0. How many 12s into 40? Okay. So if I do how many 12s into 40, that's 1, 2, 3, because the closest I can get to 40 is 36. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so 3 will go there. And then from 36 up to 40, my remainder is 4. Add a 0. Well, we know how many 12s go into 40. It's 3 with 4 remainder. Add a 0. 3. It's going to carry on. So my actual answer is going to be 582.08333333333. So I'm just going to keep in the 2 3s and I'm going to put a dot there. Now, you didn't actually need this last 3. You could just leave it as one of them and put a dot above this one. Doesn't really matter because you're just showing that it goes on and on and on constantly anyway. Okay, so 582.083 recurring, that's what we say. All right. Oh, so that was a very long-winded lesson, lots to learn in there. There's some questions now for you to have a little go at, and if you pause the video, I'll go through the answers in a second. Okay, if you've paused the video, here are the answers. 7,812 divided by 3 is 2,604. 215 divided by 5 is 43. 456 divided by 6 is 76. And 9,834 divided by 13 is 756.46 to 2 decimal places. So just make sure that when you are doing decimals like this, you don't forget to put the reoccurring dot, or in this case to 2 decimal places, because actually this number was 0.46. Okay, forgive my terrible writing. 46153, and it just kept on going. 846153. So it just kept on going and going. So in this case, we rounded it off to 2 decimal places just there. Okay, so 756.46. Because this was a 1, this 6 stayed as a 6. Okay. Okay, so thank you very much and well done. That was a very long lesson, so I hope you found it okay. And if you are doing this as part of your course, you can ask some questions in your free lessons if you felt like you were a bit confused, and there'll be more resources available as well. So thank you very much for using Cuba Education, and I will see you next time.